Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I am Sinique, and today I wanted to talk about the Lubanko Tarot by Emily Lubanko. Now I have this version and I believe it's authentic. It looks gorgeous. I mean, it's got this silver here on the sides and on the back. Fully illustrated 78 card tarot deck. I've just noticed it says cock. Tarot deck exploring the surreal, the intense, the queer and the divine. I've got a feeling it's a fake. This is the inside. This is a little guidebook. It's quite small, and these are the cards. And I have been using this deck and enjoying this deck. It's got this beautiful edge in here, and this is the backs. And I've just thought to myself, I'm not sure if this is the real deal or if I have actually inadvertently bought a fake, which I've done before, and I do assure you not on purpose. So when I realised that Emily was bringing out the deck, I was puzzled. I thought, well, I thought I had the deck, so I went ahead and I pre-ordered it, and it's come in today. So I thought, well, I'll unbox this one, because at least then I have bought, you know, the creator's version and not a fake version. I do have this version now. This is a Llewellyn publication and 2025, so yeah, it has only just come out. Like I said, I did pre-order it and it came in today. Even if I have got a real copy of the Lubanko Tarot, now I'll have one with this big guidebook, and I love me a good guidebook. So let's have a look. Now this one is not in order because I use it, but let's have a look at this one anyway. It says in the inside, without darkness we have no shadows to define the light, and without light the darkness may seem unending, and without boundary. And that actually is Emily's own quote. Just looking at the box here. So it does say, it says, explore the surreal, the intense, the queer and the divine. Exploring the surreal, the intense, the queer and the divine. It's really pretty. It's a shame if it isn't genuine. Lubanko invites you to dive into the many facets of life through a mythical, sensuous, colourful and unapologetic lens. Yeah, some of these images are different, shall we say. But that's why I like the deck, you know, it's provocative, I would say. So this deck and its full colour guidebook are inspired but also diverge from the Rider-Waite-Smith system, creating a collection of archetypes with greater dimension and relatability for modern readers. So it's like an up-to-date version rather than a traditional deck. And there's 80 cards, so there's 3 versions of the Lover's card. And this is packed with decadent meaning to meditate on. So be aware that there are decadent images in here, and helping you to decipher your personal metaphor and mythos. These cards encourage you to ask deep questions, to seek the truth in all its light and darkness. As you journey through the deck, you will discover the diversity of life on earth and the divinity of transcending our expected forms. I'm just going to pause the video and put these cards in order. Okay, I've rearranged these in order, and it did say there was multiple Lovers cards here, 3 versions of the Lovers, and I've only got 1 version. So I've got a feeling this isn't the real deal. Okay, now I have the real deal, so let's have a look at it together. This is the front image, which is beautiful. Let's look at this. Oh, chunky guidebook. It's got full colour images as well, which is great. What's this? What's this? Okay, so it's a card holder. Oh, it's a card holder. Nice of them to put that in. We have a blue pull-out ribbon. This is the bottom of the box. Paper band. Back of the cards. It's a different colour and actually a little bit, yeah, my original's a little bit taller, but the same width. And the cardstock's quite thin. Actually, it's very thin. It is thin cardstock. This seems more substantial actually. This is glossy. It's got a sheen to it, but it's not gloss. I am disappointed in the cardstock though. Should we wait for that bird to go past? Screaming. Okay, we've got a colour shift as well. Alright, this is borderless. Okay, so what does this card say? We've got a card, a code there for Llewellyn, but unfortunately because I am in the UK that wouldn't work for me anyway. Got an advert for the Darkwood Tarot. I love that deck, it's so good. So here we have a little bit about Lubanko, which is Emily. So they're an artist, designer and tarot enthusiast, specialises in creating art on the surreal, strangeness, sensuality, nature and metaphor. Emily started reading tarot over 20 years ago and has been hooked on the process and mythos of it ever since. Haven't we all? You get hooked into this beautiful system. Yeah, this is thicker because you can see the difference. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 card difference in thickness. And yeah, there's definite difference in the artwork as well. The colour. Yeah. Okay, I've got a knockoff deck. I apologise, I have bought a knockoff deck, but I've redeemed myself with the real deal. Alright, let's have a look at the guidebook. Oh, this is lovely. Find your truth through shadow work and light. The Lubanko Tarot looks at darkness and light with the same import. Each one defines the boundary of the other to form reality. This lovingly crafted, intensely illustrated deck helps you confront your inner darkness, focus your emotional energies and forge your own pathways of success. This guidebook teaches you how to read deeper, make better decisions and create your own tools when the ones you have don't work. Lubanko presents each card's upright and reversed meanings, sample tarot spreads and a variety of questions to meditate on as you journey within yourself. Along the way you can explore all the aspects of being human, both vast and small. And there's the edge of the spine. So about the author has used the deck. Major, minors, wands, cups, swords, pentacles and an afterward. And then we have an introduction. I like the fact that the images are large because they are a lot larger than the actual cards themselves. For those of us older generation who wear glasses, that's so helpful. You have before you a lovingly crafted tarot deck. While I hope the images speak for themselves, I also believe the importance of breaking out from those initial impressions and trying on something new. Try to strike a balance between explanation and letting the art speak for itself, and to make room for interpretation. How to use the deck. Some important questions we might ask ourselves. Okay. Asking questions of the archetypes. Yeah. So the Fool card, when have I been a fool? I count the ways, the many ways. Never mind, it's all part of the learning process. Reading with the cards, where to start. example questions people might ask, telling stories, making links, spreads and reversals. I think it's so important, the making links between the cards. So we've got a 3-card spread there. Lots of actual good information in here. Brilliant. Okay, and then we're into the cards. So the full colour image of the front of the box, the full colour image of the card itself, which is great. Love that. And then we have a paragraph about the Fool, the meanings, upright, reversed, and then on to the Magician. So we will look at a card later in the guidebook. Now, I will warn you before we go on with this walkthrough that there are some images here that's very provocative, but very artistic. So if that's not your preference, or it might upset you, then this walkthrough might not be for you. But I think it's a beautifully challenging deck that helps us to look at some aspects of life that we like to ignore sometimes, because through fear, I think. So let's go through the deck, if you're still with me, and you'll see how beautiful these images are. So yes, here's this Fool. The Fool has no face, but the Fool has wings to fly. So we see the Fool stepping off a cliff, but here we can see he's got a very clear destination. The Magician, and just look at the energy in that Magician. We have still got, you know, the pentacle here, the cup is on its side. We've got all the symbology we need here for a traditional emperor sign, but it looks very primal. And it is primal matter, isn't it, that the Magician is involved with. Look at this beautiful High Priestess. And their connection to water. This is just flowing like water, flowing all the way through the High Priestess. And then this open eye, this all-seeing eye. Beautiful Empress with a child. Emperor. It's a very Odin type image with these 2 ravens. This spinning orb here. See the movement in these cards as well. Lots of movement. Hierophant with a mask, and look what's behind the mask. So as I said, you know, some of these images are provoking. So do be aware of that. Case in point, a lot of people don't like this image at all, but we are represented in all our different aspects here. So those 3 Lovers cards. The Chariot, that's so gorgeous. Strength, which is very brings to mind the Lust card. The Hermit. Wheel of Fortune. Justice. Spinning plates. The Hanged Man actually has their head submerged in the water, and the Hanged Man is assigned to the water element in tarot. There's a Death card, which is really interesting, isn't it? It's going through this portal and changing as it goes through. Temperance. Gorgeous angel. The Devil. We have a pomegranate there. The Tower. That reminds me of the Thoth Tower card. Star. Beautiful. The Moon. I really like this Moon card because in the moonlight, in the liminal space, if you like, it's where our fears actually live. the Sun. Judgment. Isn't this interesting for a Judgment card? So we've got the portal up and we've got all the bodies starting to come up, and it just reminds me of like William Blake art, although it's different art, but that evokes that feeling of William Blake to me. The World. We have the World Dancer there. Okay, we start with the Ace of Cups, and this person's head is submerged in that Ace of Cups. It's all about the water, all about the womb. The 2, and we're tied together here by a knot, a promise. Nice. The 3 feels like an ecstatic dance. The 4, ignoring the opportunity offered there. The 5, so this is reminiscent of the Majestic Earth Tarot, I think, this figure here, which is all repurposed artwork. This 6 of Cups is one of my favourites. We have these 2 children here in a glass, and we do look through a glass, rose-tinted glasses maybe, when we're thinking about the past, thinking about childhood. Or on the other hand, it might mean it's not such a good memory and should be encased back in the past. The 7 of Cups. So you've got the ferryman taking them over the river Styx there. Ace of Cups. 9. Yes, very content. The 10. We're on to court cards now. So look at this dandy Page of Cups. I love him. The Knight. Lovely. Queen. I've got the Mertail. And the King. So very watery elements. Pentacles next. A lovely sunflower here and the Ace. 2, Yin and Yang. 3. Very reminiscent of Rider-Waite-Smith type imagery there. 4, holding on. Blind to what they're doing. The 5, and we've still got the Church. The windows actually look like candles, which is interesting. But we've still got the figures, the one with a stick. 6, give and receive. So you can see, if you can read Rider-Waite-Smith, they're not too far off, but they do just add this extra layer for me. There's a 7 and the 8. And that's the myth, isn't it, of the artist that fell in love with his own statue that he made. He fell in love with it and brought it to life. That's what that reminds me of. 9 and the 10. Family tree. Page of Pentacles. So we do get quite a few masks as well in this deck. There's the Knight. The Queen. Still got the rabbits. And the King. Ace of Swords. The 2. Mental anguish, really. 3. And we've still got 3 swords in a heart. 4. Taking some time out there. 5. 6. Interesting 6 of Swords, isn't it? The perspective there. It's like they're lying in the boat with their hands in prayer, and the main focus is on what's underneath the boat. Got the 7. The Assassin. 8. So there's a different sort of perspective for the Eight of Swords there, but with the same sort of meaning as the 9. That dark night of the soul. 10. To the court cards of the page. Nice. The Knight. Very fiery. And the Queen. Completely different type of image here for the Queen of Swords. And the King. And that reminds me of like Rhoda art. Anyway, it's all these references that I see in these cards, which is amazing. So now we're on the Ace of Wands. That's a 2, 3. Sending those wishes out into the world, huh? 4. Lovely stability here because this home is actually in the environment, almost like a hobbit house, if you like. 5, 6. Magnificent horse. 7, 8. So we can still see that fast energy in the Eight of Swords, but we have a figure in there. A 9. And look at this for a burden. Climbing that mountain with that burden. Wow. Okay, page. Knight. This does remind me of Chris Ann's Lightseer's energy. Queen. That's magnificent Queen, isn't it, for the Queen of Wands? Wow. And look at this King. This last card is just magnificent. Right, let's read the guidebook for that, King of Wands, because that's fantastic. Let's find another card, a minor card to look at the 10 of Cups, and then we'll look at a major card. There is a bit of noise outside, I do apologise, it's very, very windy, something banging in the wind. So those are the 3 cards I've chosen to look at, because they seem quite different to what we're used to seeing in Rider-Waite-Smith based imagery. So let's look and see what the guidebook says about these. So we have the King of Wands. It's really interesting as well for me because I actually drew the King of Wands this morning from the Magical Hours Tarot. And the meanings do align very well together in both guidebooks. So this one says the King of Wands emerges in a wall of flames, the dull roar of the fire and otherworldly howl, as he wields his stave and power. He is the energy of Wands embodied and is an intense, creative leader who can intimidate as well as inspire. Powerful, overbearing and driven, he lifts his hand to create before our very eyes. And then we end up divinatory meaning is a natural leader emboldened with vision, the power and ability to solve problems through self-direction as well as the direction of others, the adrenaline rush of action, activity and clarity of focus. And then reversed, an arrogant leader, leading with blind ambition that must be calmed and redirected toward the path of sense. Hubris is one's passion. Sometimes a person in power who claims everything and does nothing. The gods do not like hubris. The 10 of Cups. From on high comes the holy rain. Life and abundance shower a growing ecosystem. Spring comes with abundance, branches reach skyward and rivers of gold rush through dark, rich soil. Divinatory meanings. New beginnings, creative, emotional and familial fulfillment, abundance, richness of emotional connection and health. Like the nourishing rains of spring that bring a harmonious ecosystem, the 10 of Cups is about the lushness and following auspices of good fortune. Sometimes this card can indicate abundance specific to emotional health and connection, fulfillment, and sometimes particularly fulfillment in the way of family and togetherness. Reversed, waiting for that nourishing rain with dry crops, feeling parched for emotional connection. Something is blocking your abundance, or it feels too out of reach. And the Hierophant, a figure in finery, stares ahead, its eyes piercing through an ornate mask that slips from the face. In its many hands, knowledge unfolds from scrolls and books of untold age. The finery of its garments creates an intimidating silhouette. Its watchful gaze is penetrating, hard to read. Divinatory meanings. At this point in the journey through the major arcana, as the full sets on their way, through the power to create, the power to self-reflect, figures of nurturing and figures of power, which would be the cards that came before, they move outside structures of the immediate to the society and culture around them. They may turn to society, culture, or religion for answers, but about what is around them. The Hierophant of this deck, with his sharp eyes and alien mask that hides his true face, is the archetype of the rules we are given at a young age through society, through religion, through traditions and social norms. But this Hierophant prompts us to ask, who makes the rules? And who do those rules serve? At the first encounter, one may be dazzled, sometimes confused, sometimes relieved at how easy it is to be taken in. The Hierophant of this deck takes a more critical eye to the structures and rules handed to us, to the just so furnished cage of do as you're told, of the bedrock beneath the as it's always been. The first time we see the grandeur of such a figure or institution, it can overwhelm us. A dazzling light that can blind the viewer at first glance, leaving us with aftershocks of its image, its holy silhouette, two-dimensional and above reproach. The weight of tradition and those that came before us unfolds in scrolls, literal and metaphorical, tomes of ancient wisdom and structures long upheld and enforced. Yes, this Hierophant is not welcoming, though the figure may catch the breath, command attention. It is meant to be watched with wariness, as prey would watch a predator. The mask is hypnotic, but reveals intentions not overtly stated. It extends hands of blessing and knowledge, but do we let its hands touch our own? Does the knowledge contained in the books strengthen us or bind us if we adhere too strictly? We must learn our traditions to understand where we come from and where our unconscious biases may lie. To ignore where you come from is ignorance, but so is blind adherence to it. Many traditions are reinforced through fear and strict obedience. Who does the fear protect? Who does it hurt? Look around, look askance, look at the surroundings and where the light touches, and see the shapes of the shadows and what it rushes to hide. In readings, particularly dealing with identity building or queries, look to the Hierophant as guidance thusly. Understand the traditions you were raised with, where you come from, where power is held, and how it affects the story of what surrounds you. The history of society and tradition shows a history of power. What is done shows, conversely, what is not done. This is really synchronicity for me, because this morning I watched a video that sort of dealt with this, and it's not a very long video, it's from China, about why we are forced to go to school. What is the agenda behind that children have to go to school, or their parents in China will be jailed. Here they would be fined. So why are children forced to be educated by our system? Very interesting video, actually. And he states in it that if you've got two children, they both wanted to be doctors. One child went to all the correct schools, all the big schools, went to Harvard, passed all the exams, all the rest of it, and then went to be a doctor, where the other child went straight into a hospital. As an apprentice, really, he started off washing floors, but taking in what was going on around them, taking in the environment and learning on the job. And then he asked which child would grow to be the most competent doctor. Yeah, interesting. And the background to how education came into being. And it was all for war, currently, but I will link the video below if it's something that interests you. But it was, yeah, it is something to ponder. Anyway, back to this deck. In some cases, the Hierophant can more literally be a more neutral symbol of tradition, society and culture. Sometimes it can symbolise a fear of the unfamiliar that should be examined with a calm and curious mind. In certain contexts, the Hierophant can invite examination of a tradition, bedrock or culture that is apart from our own. That may seem strange to us, but has wisdom to impart. To study one tradition critically and openly is to hopefully open yourself to the possibility of other traditions. There can be great wisdom in studying tradition with an open heart and a critical mind. There is great power in that thoroughness of understanding. And then reversed, a reversed Hierophant doubles down on the dangers of rules and structures that oppress, but do not serve you. Sometimes it symbolises an institution, or sometimes a person that may stand in for the values of an institution. Critically examine the motives of your mentors and those who write the rules. Understand where you are going. Do not lose sight of where you came from, but you do not automatically owe your obedience. The Hierophant reversed suggests a stronger brainwashing, and that's one of the words that this YouTuber used, brainwashing. Propaganda of rules that do not benefit those they ensnare. In some cases, the reversed Hierophant warns us to be wary of cults, cultish behaviour, and those that elevate themselves with grandeur and holiness to quickly gain power over others. Above all, ask yourself, who do those rules benefit? Who do they silence? Who will suffer for this? And who will be able to ignore that suffering? As you can tell from those entries, this is a very, very thought-provoking, powerful deck, and one I do highly, highly recommend. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. And until my next video, bye friends, bye.